Hello, everyone. Today's topic is what makes a person at risk of becoming addicted to gambling and Buddhist solutions. We are constantly hearing of cases where some prominent person has been driven to crime because of their gambling addiction, with a recent famous example being the former interpreter of Japanese baseball star Ohtani Shohei Mizuhara Ippei, who pled guilty to committing fraud to pay off his gambling debt. In this way, gambling addiction can ruin lives, laying waste to a hard-earned career and destroying relationships. Of course, though, gambling addiction is not something that only other people are at risk of. We too could potentially end up struggling with it someday. What then are the risk factors for gambling addiction? What is it that we should look out for within ourselves? That is what the focus of today's video will be. At a glance, it seems that common characteristics of people who end up addicted to gambling are that they keep things to themselves. They have a lot of pride, they seek immediate results, and they are prone to black and white thinking. These are all fairly common traits, to the point where there's probably no one who can truthfully say they're at no risk whatsoever of becoming addicted to gambling. A gambling addiction can have serious ill effects on a person's life, leading them to accumulate debt, lie to loved ones, and suffer hidden anxiety that can negatively affect job performance, concentration, and overall well-being. This is a trap that anyone can fall into. So today, let us explore what exactly it is that causes people to become addicted to gambling. Buddhism teaches that if we want to avoid a certain outcome, it is essential that we know its causes, because only then can we recognize those causes and stop them in their track. From a Buddhist point of view, there are two major contributing factors to a gambling addiction, so let us examine what they are and what we can do about them. Today I will talk about the following 3 points. 1. Conditions. 2. Desire for wealth. 3. Suffering. Before getting into the two major direct causes of gambling addiction, let us look at some indirect causes. In Buddhism, these are called conditions, and it is taught that every result is brought about through the combination of a direct cause with conditions. There is a whole variety of conditions that can draw people into developing a gambling addiction. One of these is stocks. In January 2024, the Nippon Individual Savings Account, NISA, underwent a revamp to encourage Japanese households to gain income from investments. The savings NISA is designed to allow people to save up for the future by adding money little by little. It's an index fund, meaning it's tied with the performance of a professionally managed group of stocks. So the stocks stay relatively stable, and account holders can expect a gain of about 4 or 5% per year. The problem, however, is that getting a NISA may lead some people to gain a thirst for more, so they start personally purchasing stocks that they think are doing well, and, seeing gains from those, excitedly believe they've now become an expert on the stock market. They therefore keep buying more and more and more, thinking they'll become rich, only to end up losing money when it turns out their investment strategy wasn't as sound as they thought it was. Once a person gets into the stock market and finds some success, it is all too easy for them to become obsessed with it. It can be as addictive as drugs. The number of people who end up with a stock gambling addiction, then, is likely to keep rising in the future. Ordinarily, a NISA will earn you about 100 to 200 yen per day, roughly 62 cents to a bit over $1. So that's neither cause for much excitement nor anything to feel down about. Seeing a stock you bought shoot up in value, however, is thrilling, and it's easy to become glued to stock market graphs as you crave to see how your stocks are doing. This, of course, can end up being to the detriment of everything else in your life, including your job. If you see significant financial gains from your stocks, they might even dwarf the income you're getting from your job, which might then lead you to become demotivated and put less effort into your work. When the rush of gambling on the stock market gets out of hand, it may in the end absorb all your time and energy. But there's no guarantee you'll actually make money instead of losing money on stocks. While you won't make huge gains from a savings NISA, it's a far safer bet than buying and selling stocks yourself, particularly if you're new to investment. People who get in over their heads with stocks easily end up with balances in the red instead of the grand fortune they had envisioned, even after investing so much time, energy, and money into this pursuit. All they end up with, other than a large amount of debt to pay off, is the question of why they went ahead and did this in the first place. Of course, merely opening a NISA does not mean you have or are sure to develop a gambling addiction, but for some people, getting a taste of what they might gain from stocks in this way can be the start of a slippery slope into obsession. During the time of Japan's bubble economy, from the late 80s to the beginning of the 90s, it was generally believed that real estate would keep going up in value. Because of this, many people were making a lot of money by buying and selling land, and some companies even set aside their main means of doing business to follow suit. However, they would have a rude awakening when the bubble burst in 1992. Land prices plummeted, and those who had been relying on buying and selling real estate went bankrupt. The companies that survived were those that had retained a solid focus on their main means of doing business instead of dabbling with real estate. At the height of the bubble economy, though, no one had any idea that the bubble would someday burst. Everyone just assumed things would stay the way they were. The reality is, however, that nothing stays the same forever, and we never know what might be just around the corner. Of course, the same goes for stocks as well. Even if a stock seems to be going up in value now, that's not necessarily always going to be the case. It's important to try to keep in mind that we don't know what exactly might happen and to base our decisions off of that. Still, that can be easier said than done when the possibility of earning a fortune if we play our cards right is beckoning us on. If we're not careful, we can easily end up falling into obsession and potentially ruin our lives. Stocks are just one condition amongst many that can lead us into gambling addiction. When coronavirus began spreading rapidly all over the world in 2020, many countries went into lockdown in order to minimize infection and death from the disease. This led to a great increase in people working from home, with the internet being a vital communication tool for many. However, as useful as the internet is, it is also something that makes it easier than ever to get involved with gambling, what with the widespread availability of online gambling sites. And that combined with boredom from being unable to engage in outdoor activities led to a large increase in people engaging with online casino and skills games in particular. Once sports events resumed, the popularity of online betting soared too. Naturally, of course, this too has contributed and continues to contribute to the problem of gambling addiction. Another potential condition is lotteries. With lottery tickets on sale at many convenience stores, lotteries now being playable online, and advertisements for lotteries even popping up on ATM. Temptation is all around to try your luck at winning the jackpot. The chances of actually winning may be small, but players say there's a real thrill to scratching off the glitter to find out what your prize might be. This too, then, is something that easily has people coming back for more. These are just some examples of the many things that can draw us into a gambling addiction in the modern world. It takes a fair amount of self-discipline to resist the temptation to just give it a go yourself when you're bombarded with tales of big wins from the likes of stocks, online gambling, and lotteries. In this time where nearly everyone is online and stays connected even while on the go, Thanks to smartphones, we need to exercise all the more caution to ensure we too don't end up coaxed into giving over our time, energy, and money for false promises of great success. Now let us look at the two major direct causes of gambling addiction. As you might have gathered, one of these is the desire for wealth. Buddhism summarizes all human desires into the 5 desires, and the desire for wealth is included amongst these 5. Truly, human beings in general have a strong desire to gain more money and possessions. That desire is what feeds a gambling habit. It's almost as if money puts a spell on us. In the card game Blind Man's Bluff, played by 2 or more people, players hold a card up to their forehead so they can see everyone else's cards but not their own, and they place bets on who has the highest card. It's a fun game that soon gets a hold on you and makes you want to keep playing it. The thing is, however, what actually makes it fun is if money is involved. If your money is at stake, and if you have a chance to win money, then you actually get serious about the game and try hard to win. Without the money, it's just another game, but with it, it's thrilling and addictive. Win and you get that rush of endorphins and the urge to see if you can't win one more time. Lose, and you'll want to try again to see if you can't turn your fortune around this time. This is how money entices us and bewitches us. And a huge part of why it is so easy to get hooked on gambling. You might start out casually thinking you'll just give it a try, only to end up getting far more into it than you'd expected because of the thrill of winning money and the constant temptation to try to win your losses back. Have you heard of pachinko? It's a popular game in Japan, and it's like a cross between pinball and a slot machine. You purchase a number of small metal balls and launch them into the machine in hopes that they will roll into the right holes, which will win you even more metal balls. The aim of the game is to get as many metal balls as possible, as the more you win, the bigger your prize will be. Of course, this is largely a game of chance, so it's pretty easy to end up using up all the balls you purchased without winning anything, which means the money you spent on them is now down the drain. If that's your first experience of pachinko, you probably won't be too enthused about trying it again. If, however, you manage to hit the jackpot and earn back 10 times more money than what you initially put in, you'll probably be excited and want to keep on playing. That kind of beginner's luck is what grabs people and gets them hooked, as they hope to replicate their first-time success as many times as possible. This is the human desire for wealth in action. The desire for wealth easily makes us lose ourselves, much like an intoxicating substance. In Borneo, they have an interesting way of capturing orangutans. In the jungle, they set down a jug of water containing a few drops of a strong alcoholic drink called arak, and the aroma attracts the orangutans to it, and they start to drink it. The people then gradually increase the percentage of arak in the water each day so that the orangutans will end up becoming more and more drunk without realizing. Finally, the people fill the whole jug with arak and the orangutans gulp it down, leading them to get so stone drunk that they just lie down for a nap right there. Then the snoring animals can easily be captured. In this way, alcohol causes us to lose ourselves. And Buddha taught that our desire for wealth has the same kind of effect on us, calling it delusive wine. It derails our thoughts and becomes the source of all sorts of disturbances in our lives. There is a Japanese proverb that goes, "First the man takes a drink, then the drink takes a drink, then the drink takes the man." If a person just has a bit of alcohol every now and then as a social lubricant or for their own enjoyment, there's likely not really any problem. But if the person finds themselves compelled to drink or they can't bear to go without a drink, then they are no longer just taking a drink. The drink has taken the person. Their life is now controlled by the alcohol. Just as alcohol all too often ruins lives, our desire for wealth can completely take a hold of us and ruin our lives too. As we grow accustomed to increasing amounts of money, we keep wanting more, more, more. Mizuhara Ippei, the former interpreter for baseball star Ohtani Shohei, was reportedly earning up to $500,000 per year before he was fired. One might assume that someone earning that much would have no need to gamble, but gambling is addictive, and the possibility of getting more money remains enticing, no matter how much you're already earning. There truly is no end to our desires. The more money we have, the more money we want, and if we gamble in hopes of getting more, it's all too easy to end up going the opposite way and ending up with mountains of debt. Then the temptation is to gamble more in order to win that money back. But of course, it's so easy for us to just end up adding to our debt when we try. No longer able to see a way out, but more gambling, we end up trapped in a vicious cycle. That is the alarming power of our desire for wealth. All that is needed to initiate that cycle is getting a taste of success early on. Hitting the jackpot gives us such a thrill that we crave a repeat of that experience, and that craving spurs us on to try again, and again, and again, even long past the point when our luck has run out. That is how our desire for wealth makes us lose ourselves. There is no one who can say they have no desire for wealth whatsoever, and so every person has the potential to end up addicted to gambling without exception. It is highly important to be mindful of this and choose our actions wisely. The other major cause of gambling addiction is suffering. This suffering can be caused by a number of different things, including financial hardship. When people fall into debt that they are desperate to repay, they might turn to gambling in the hopes that they can turn their fortune around if they hit the jackpot. Once they start gambling, it can become very difficult to stop. While the affluent are more likely to see horse racing as merely an enjoyable spectator sport, those struggling with poverty might find themselves resorting to heading to the bookies to see if they can't win a payout that will rescue them from their dire situation. That easily becomes the start of an addiction. It also doesn't help that the thrill of gambling can help people forget the worries they have surrounding money. Additionally, being in debt can damage people's self-esteem, since they cannot support their families as they wish, and that factor too can push people towards gambling in hopes of quickly winning back what they owe. Alternatively, when people feel so bored with their daily lives that they wonder what on earth they're even living for, they may seek out excitement in gambling. They may also turn to drugs, alcohol, sex, anything that gives them a thrill and helps them forget their misery and find an escape. When these are the only things in life that feel good, people easily become addicted to them. If a person's suffering is intense, they will do anything to take the edge off the pain. Whatever can help them get away from their suffering, even if only for a while, they will latch onto and become dependent on. There is no small number of people who are suffering so terribly that even being addicted to potentially lethal drugs will seem a better alternative to their present situation. People who feel truly happy won't have this urge to escape by whatever means possible. If they genuinely feel they have everything they could possibly need, then every day will be a joy for them, and they won't need to turn to these addictive things in order to get away from their pain. And as we've seen, addiction tends to lead to vicious cycles. People turn to gambling to escape their suffering, end up losing money, then gamble more in hopes of recovering that money. People take drugs to escape their suffering, their lives get worse because of their drug use, and then they take more drugs to escape their increased suffering. It goes on and on and on until things spiral completely out of control. Even if people manage to stop gambling or get off the drugs, though, it's easy to end up relapsing. With loved ones losing trust in them as a result, they end up lonely and hurt, and this added suffering may then only serve to further fuel their addiction. There are many things in this world that people may end up addicted to, but today we have focused for the most part on gambling. We saw that along with a number of conditions, there are two major causes leading to a gambling addiction, namely the desire for wealth and suffering. As everybody desires money and everybody suffers too, no one can say that they are immune to ever developing a gambling addiction. And so it is important to be aware of what might lead us to that point so that we can do our best to avoid those causes and conditions. Buddha taught of causes and conditions precisely in order to help us make better, more informed decisions leading to a better, happier life. This channel explores various topics through the lens of Buddhist wisdom. So if you're interested in learning more about the Buddhist teachings, why don't you hit that subscribe button so you'll know whenever we release a new video. Thank you for watching today's video.